Good evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the East Bridgewater Planning Board for Monday, November 18th, 2024. We have with us this evening regular members Diane Phillips, Rachel Tedesco, Wayne Crosby, Miles Heeger, John Lawler, our Vice Chairman Roy Gardner, and myself, Kevin Riley. We also have present our Associate Member Yvonne McCrae. Several items on our agenda tonight, first of which we'll take a look at the approval of available minutes. We do have minutes for the last two meetings, those of October 7th and October 21st, 2024. Assuming there are no comments or questions, Chair would entertain a motion at this time to waive the formal reading of the minutes and to adopt or to accept them in the form presented.
I'll make that motion.
Motion is made by Mr. Lawler. Is there a second? And that's seconded by Mr. Heeger. Discussion. None. All those in favor of the motion to accept the minutes of October 7th, and October 21st as presented, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Unanimous vote of all members present and voting. We do have a few minutes before 7:15 arrives, so Mr. Gardner, on those special engineering accounts, have you had an opportunity to look at those? To know that we are in position to move to close those out? A list of several.
So we still have the same problem that we raised 6 or 8 weeks ago right now? And although we have the 3 accounts on here now with account numbers, they have all 3 departments here? Concom, Planning Board?
I think the request there was that they be approved pending BOH or Concom approval as well.
Well, we should be identifying individually which ones they are, because up until just a year or so ago, they were individual accounts. And those individual accounts should have been noted in the information that's downstairs, in the office.
So preference would be to defer action on those at this time?
Yeah, I think we should defer at least till the next meeting to see if we can sort out which actual account each one of those is for.
Okay, so,
'Cause I don't think just because they can't find any records that they had a surety account is enough information to go ahead and vote to release the
no, I-
account.
yeah,
We should know whose accounts they are.
so we'll carry that forward to our first meeting in December on those several requests for the closure of the engineering accounts. It being 7:15, now we have a continued public hearing with respect to the property at 140 Laurel Street. That was for a request for a special permit with site plan approval. This was originally before the board, I believe, in June. It's been continued a number of times in the interim to allow for the peer review and responses to peer review. We have no representative of the applicant here this evening. And what I'd like to do is if we could just kind of refresh everybody's memory, generally speaking, as to what the proposal is. And then we can kind of go through anything that has changed or been updated since your last visit. And then we can discuss further.
Sounds like
Brother
a
Pellegrini,
great idea.
it's on you.
Mr. Riley. Good evening, everyone. Rob Pellegrini, attorney for the applicant. This is 140 Laurel Street. I have with me our trusted engineer and also 2 representatives of the owner as well. This is for map 53, lot 13. Once again, 140 Laurel Street. The reason we're here is we're requesting a special permit under section 5K2E to expand the existing warehouse there. It's currently 440,000 square feet, and we're applying to increase it by 210 square feet approximately. We're also seeking site plan review under section 13 of the bylaw. Not gonna get too much into the plans because Mr. Mackwell here, the engineer, is much better at going through that than I am. Generally speaking, this is quite simply a business that's been there for a very long time. It's been operating as a warehouse for many, many years. I think Shaw's originally was there as well. In my application materials, because it's been so long, I sort of outlined the 5K2E parameters, which is basically what I believe we should be honed in on here. It's suitable parking, not a dangerous use by reason of fire or explosion, and not offensive or detrimental by reason of emission of dust, odor, fume, smoke, refuse, noise, or vibration. One thing that I discussed way back when, before several of the members actually were on the board, we received a variance for height quite some time ago. I want to say it was beginning of the year-ish. The reason for that is there's various topography around there, and the state code basically has you average out the height of the building as you sort of walk around the building. So just to be safe, we got a height variance from the ZBA. That was approved. And then finally, Conservation Commission was finally approved recently. That's the reason for the long delay, is that it was a very thorough but fair peer review. And we are pleased to present to you tonight that all but just a couple of administrative matters have been completely resolved, and we wanted to have that done before we came back to you. Finally, site plan review is what we are seeking as well, which, as you know, comes with just about every commercial proposal. Those parameters are simply under 13.2. You're supposed to be looking at parking, safe and adequate access and egress, methods for storage and disposal of waste, things like that, water drainage as well. And that's why we were before Concom for so long. With that, I'll turn it right over to the engineer to get into the plans and how the peer review went.
Sure.
Well, if I may, sorry, David, one quick clarification.
And just identify yourself for our
Sorry,
record.
Andrew Satcher, I'm here with Matt D'Angelo, we represent the family that owns the building.
Thank you.
And the warehouse in total is 440,000 square feet on the ground. There's another 28,000 square feet-ish second level office space. So so we're on record, that the total building size, gross square footage is
468,996.
Would be
Four-
460.
468,996 square feet, not 440, just for it.
Is that now or after the expansion?
No, that's now. The expansion is.
That's what I
is
thought.
The
Oh,
piece of the back we'll let Dave talk about for the 210,000. The original application or the original plans in front of Concom were bigger than that, but through the negotiations with Concom and discussions, it shrunk a little bit. But Dave can speak to that.
So it's still give or take plus or minus 50% expansion over what's there right now?
Of the footprint. Yep.
Plus or
Yeah.
minus,
Yes.
For the footprint, yes.
Got it.
Okay, okay.
So, since it has been a little bit of time since we've been before the planning board, I think maybe we'll just give a brief overview of the, big picture of the site plan review and special permit before you, and also just kind of recap the documents previously submitted and the documents that have most recently been submitted in October of 2024. So the property is located at 140 Laurel Street. It's bounded by, Laurel Street is on your left there, Spring Street to the right, There are two pieces that do touch West Union Street, but there's no development or access up there. So currently, the plan that we're looking at here is,
We'll get there.
that's okay. Is access both by Laurel Street and from Spring Street. Spring Street is more of the industrial street where the current landowners instruct most of the trucks to come from, which is part of the operation of the facility. It's also a kind of a cleaner intersection to get onto, is it Route 104, I think, to get back to the highway. So as Robert had stated, the existing site's about 116 acres of property. It is located for the most part in the industrial zoning district. There's a small piece along, I think it was West Union Street, that's located in a residential zone. There's no plan to do any residential development on that at all. We are also located in the floodplain and wetland overlay district. As such, you'll see on the plan, there's a lot of dark green on the plan. That's all the wetland areas. The wetland areas that are surrounded by the magenta lines are the soil scientist identified wetlands, and the ones beyond that are identified by GEIS only. There's approximately 35 acres of wetlands within the 116 acre site. As Rob had noted, the existing footprint of the building is about 440,000 square feet. Approximately 77 loading positions, maybe 80 or so trailer positions for parking at the site. Parking at the site's approximately 400 parking stalls, all located in front of the building and some around the site. Access on Laurel Street has about 4 curb cuts. One of those doesn't really go anywhere, and two or three of them go into the front parking lot, and one goes into the parking lot that's on the bottom of the page that goes back to the loading areas. Currently, there's circulation all the way around the building, and in the future, we will also maintain circulation around the entire building. Submitted with the original package, which is the same footprint, same building that we submitted. We really haven't changed too much. We went through a detailed stormwater management and site plan peer review by environmental partners, but we have not updated the architectural plans at all. It's the same building. We haven't updated the location of the building on the ground. It's in the identical position. We have not updated the limits of pavement or limits of parking since the first submittal and the presentation in June. As we know, we submitted in June. We had an initial public hearing. Planning board voted to have the project peer reviewed by environmental partners. We went and had the funding secured in the escrow accounts to fund the peer review. Got the peer review back, I think I got it in about mid-August, and digested it for a bit, and it actually took us till about October 4th to turn it around, so it took us a little time too, but we got it out in October. And last week, Environmental Partners was able to send a peer review letter back, and I think all but 4 items are acknowledged and closed out, no further comment. The items that remain were items within our response letter of the original response that they're items that could be best handled by a condition of approval, because some of the comments deal with things that the building owners won't be able to deal with, or we won't be able to deal with them until we have a full design team. This building is under a permitting for site plan review, stormwater and a site plan only. At this time, there's an architect that got us a floor plan and got us some dimensions so they could lay it out and get it marketing, but we do not have a full design team. There's no construction schedule at this time. After these approvals, and as Mr. Pellegrini said, we have already received our Conservation Commission approval, and we've received our zoning variance for the height. With the site plan approval, we'll let the applicant get to those next stages and vetting a construction schedule. But I can quickly, if the board would like to, I could go through the things, because we feel that the peer review is very positive. It's ready to be closed out. The outstanding items, if anybody wanted to follow, are really, most items are closed until you get to, would be comment number 8B. And that comment deals with the stormwater pollution prevention plan. We have put together a comprehensive plan to accompany stormwater or erosion control plans within the plan set and within the revised plan set. We've expanded on those for the Conservation Commission. However, we haven't put together the, nice 150-page booklet that's required to be put together when you file your stormwater pollution prevention plan with the EPA. It's the SWIP is what we call it. It's a federal permit, but it's a self-certifying permit. It's a little bit of extra work. You don't usually like to file those with the EPA until we have a contractor on board and we are a shovel-ready project. We like their input. Their names go all over the documents, so doing them now doesn't really make any sense. So the peer review consultants agreed that that's an appropriate step, and they felt that we did make some good enhancements on those stormwater control plans within the documents, but putting off the final review of the final SWIP document was appropriate. We're going to continue down the letter. All the initial peer review concerns had been closed until we get to number 14, which was part of the town's stormwater management permit requirements. Section 6K2Q required that a landscaping plan be submitted. Our response was due to the location of the expansion being behind an industrial building and in the woods and not visible by really anybody. And we're proposing what we can fit and outside the building footprint, and the pavement natural vegetation will take over again, that we get a waiver for a landscaping plan, since nothing's really going to be visible from the public. And then also, we don't have much room to landscape. We're kind of putting the addition behind the building where there's a parking lot and a big lawn area. We are removing some trees that are mitigated by the stormwater management system. But the intent of the applicant is to let the trees grow back just off the pavement and maintain just as much as they need to. We feel that will take over on the fill slopes and the areas we don't develop. Natural vegetation will take over pretty quickly. And as you can see from the plan, there isn't a lot of islands and a lot of areas that need significant landscaping. We've done that by reducing the building and the pavement as much as we could. So that is one thing that the board would need to vote on as a waiver from that. However, it should also be discussed that the Department of Public Works already issued the stormwater permit. So I don't know if it's a required thing. It was brought up by the peer review consultants. The DPW, after we filed for our application, within our cover letters, we requested a stormwater management permit through the planning board, because there wasn't really a process or an application at that time. After we filed in April, in May, the DPW sent me an application to fill out. I filled out the entire application, and I think they issued the stormwater management permit fairly quickly after that, without any other further review. However, the intent of the stormwater management bylaw and a lot of particulars were fully reviewed by your peer review consultant, and the one thing outlying from that is a request for a waiver from a landscaping plan. So that was, I forget what number I said that was, number 14. So then we go down to, I think it's number 16. So I'm going to ask that we just forward the slideshow up a few pages where I have an annotated drainage plan.
You know what sheet it is?
You just keep going. I'll tell you when to stop. That's an yeah. No, not that one. Keep going. You can go down. Yep. Keep going down. There you go. So now if we just zoom out a tiny bit. Okay, so there you go. So the two blue lines that go right through the middle of the building, those are existing storm drain lines. We looked at bringing them around, and there's really not enough elevation for the distance. So we're proposing to reconstruct those two drain lines under the footprint of the proposed building. The peer review's comments come in twofold here on, I think it's number 16 and number 17. Yep, number 16 and 17. Number 16 relates to the fact that we are designing or redesigning or reproving the existing pipes for their sizes, and we've sized them for the what you call the 100-year storm because they're going under the building. The peer reviewer has asked us to really just demonstrate that they can handle the 25-year storm without being surcharged, so to speak. And that's something that's fairly easy to do. But it's also tied directly to the comment of number 18, where the peer review consultant, who is kind of correct that this isn't a normal thing to do to leave stormwater pipes. Usually we bring them around the building, but it's not uncommon in city situations that you have to have them go under the building. So it's a little bit uncommon here in the suburbs, but it's something that we need to do. And the reviewers' comments are concerns of access, maintenance, and the future of these drain lines going under the building. They're all legitimate comments. Our response was, we can work those details out. We have yet to hire a structural engineer who would design foundations around stormwater pipe, and we've yet to hire a plumbing engineer to make sure that access, pipe type, and all the backfill and everything would meet the building code. So what we had done at this far is just identified that we'd have at least one access point within the building because the pipes would be a little bit over 300 feet. You don't like to go any more than 300 feet without drain manholes. So the peer reviewer had some great suggestions to work into a formal condition, if that's to be, if it's the wishes of the board to close this out and then pick some of these things up at the building permit stage. So that was the other one, and then the last one was a kind of a typical condition. It's about the site retaining walls. We've identified where we need retaining walls and what the heights would be. The peer reviewer's comment is those should come with a structural engineer stamp. The way that these retaining walls work in the field of civil engineering and construction is we don't fully design them out unless they're part of the building, and then the building engineers would design them. The retaining walls that we'll be using here on the site are segmental block walls, generally designed by the vendors, but the vendors don't design them until they're ready to sell them to you. So again, the shop that will come back in the form of a shop drawing. What the peer review is making sure that they get a copy of that shop drawing. Us as the civil design engineers would also get a copy of those shop drawings to approve them, to make sure all the criteria from our site plan is met, make sure the penetrations are there if we've got a pipe coming through. And they want to make sure that the designers review the geotechnical report as well for the soil conditions. On behalf of the applicant, we have no problem with that because that's kind of standard procedure. Once you get over 4 feet tall with walls, the vendors fully design them. So I think there was like 4 items that would be conditions of approval from the peer review letter. Other than that, you know, as the planning board may or may not know, we came to a couple of roundtable meetings. We've had some comments from the fire department. When we get to that stage with the fire suppression system and re-looking at the existing building, the Department of Public Works folks are all very familiar with this building and the history of it. And nobody has issued any negative comments to prevent us from moving forward at this time. So, you know, on behalf of the applicant and the attorney, like we feel that, you know, based on the peer review that we could, if the board was willing to do, we could get an approval with some special conditions to deal with the outstanding peer review and any other standard conditions that come along with a site plan special permit from the planning board of East Bridgewater. And with that, I think I'm done rambling. I apologize, I gave you a lot of information quickly.
The fine ramble.
And so through the chair and I'll turn it back to our team if they'd like to supplement anything that I said or anything that I misspoke, and after that, to the board. Does anybody have anything to supplement?
No, I think that was a good job.
Okay.
Very clear.
Great, so, through the chair, we'd like to give the meeting back to the planning board.
Okay, thank you. That was clear, concise. Appreciate that. Members of the board, questions, comments? Start over here. Diane, Rachel, anything on your side?
No, I read the 8 pages before this meeting, so I think it's helpful to have that, review, and have you review, the highlights of it, so thank you. I understand it.
Dwayne, Miles, John?
Is the landscaping holding anything up? No?
Well, I mean, basically what they're requesting is just a waiver of the
It's a
condition.
waiver,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yvonne?
None. I heard 4 areas you said, but I was marking them. I have 6.
Okay.
8. And I
Let's
think-
jot them
think
down.
they're
I
asking
jotted them down this morning, and
There'd be 4 special conditions,
Okay, and then the other
as
2.
opposed, and there are 6 areas that probably need attention based on the
Yes.
peer review. That's,
Okay.
I think you're correct.
That's what I was, okay.
Gardner?
So this is gonna be a self-approved building, as I understand it, based on its physical construction and size. The engineers are gonna certify the actual construction.
yes, this would be a controlled construction
Right.
project, of course, yep.
So do you have any issue if we were to approve the special permit with our standard, I believe it's now 10 or 12 standard conditions plus,
No.
we'll
course
put the
not.
rest of those remaining open items with our peer reviewer? With a comment basically that says that prior to the issuance of the actual building permit to start construction, that those items be resolved? Does that satisfy you?
That does.
Okay.
We can, I've made the little list, it's, it's 4 outstanding items and 1 waiver, was what it turned out to be.
Okay.
Okay, and I think the other thing they were gonna ask for, although we know there's gonna be more detailed plans coming along as you said, when you get into the detailed site engineering, but for the actual special permit itself, we'll want a set of plans with a current date on it,
Okay.
because I think our past practice, especially in large project, is that initial special permit set of plans that doesn't show the real engineering details, but shows basically what we're approving, gets recorded with the special permit at the registry of deeds.
I think that the plans that we have to date are appropriate to be recorded as exhibits to the special permit.
Except some of those still have a February 2024 date on them.
I think they were all updated for 10,
Okay,
10,
maybe,
10/4/24.
okay, maybe the ones on the table here aren't copies of the actual latest ones, but if they are in fact 10/4/24, then I think we should be
Leave it,
okay.
even if there wasn't a change, it would have said 10/4/24, no change in the revision block.
Yeah, so I think that's all I've got at this point. I think that was a fairly good presentation. The original presentation that we had some time ago, I thought was also fairly well done, so. And I don't have any issue with waiving the landscaping plan. The majority of the changes and the work at the site is gonna be invisible unless you go out behind the building.
Right.
And I wouldn't expect it, with no nearby abutters that have sight lines to that area, it doesn't make sense other than to, I mean, obviously clean it up, make sure that it works with all of the drainage requirements and so on and so forth, and let it come back naturally to whatever it needs to be. So just one last question, is my understanding that is over time, this is at some point in time gonna be entirely 47 Brands warehouse, and maybe, depending on how long the growth cycle takes these days, that there'll be other tenants within the building for some period of time?
Partially, so for clarity, the family that owns the building that we represent has owned, you know, they actually started, the grandfather started 47 Brand. Matt's dad and his three uncles built up the business over 40, 50 years. And so 47 Brand, we're not hiding anything, it's public information, was sold to New Era, which was one of their competitors for many years. So the family did not sell the building, the family sold the business. So the family still owns the building. There was all these long-term exponential growth plans to expand the building. They own the building, it's a real estate investment for the family.
Yeah.
So we can't sit here in front of you folks today and guarantee that 47 Brand will, number one, expand, number two, be in the building forever. That's not a guarantee that anybody can give.
Okay.
There's been a lot of hard work, effort, money spent, strategic planning on growth plans, and to add sort of accretive value to this building for the future.
Yep.
And you can't even speak to expansion until you actually have your permits.
Understood,
And
understood.
hopefully, knock on wood, we're pretty close to having.
I guess I could have asked that question a little more directly, because I had heard that the 47 brand had been sold.
It has been sold, yes.
It has been sold,
Yep.
okay, okay.
Yep. But we don't have a crystal ball,
No,
you know.
we don't either, so, I mean,
Yeah.
I just wanted to try and get out exactly where we stand in the, for the short term, then, the plan is to expand the building. The building is gonna be maintained and owned by the same owners that previously owned 47 Brands.
Correct. But there's not a plan to start construction right away. Again, we're being fully
Right.
transparent.
Yeah, that's been told to us several times,
Yes,
we understand
okay.
that.
I just, we're as transparent
There's
as I
no-
get.
no
Thank
doubt-
you very much,
No
yes.
doubt, we fully understand
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
And I think we would expect that with a building of this size and some of the uncertainties in the retail marketplace these days, then,
3 years ago, maybe. Today, no. But that's,
Okay.
that's the long-term planning.
okay.
So, Chair is actually gonna make a motion, in two parts. So the, first part will be that the board vote to approve, or to grant site plan approval pursuant to section 5K2E of the zoning bylaws, with our standard conditions and with these additional, special conditions. One, that final plans are to include a detailed structural and plumbing assessment relating to the installation of stormwater drainage pipes beneath the proposed building, and the same shall be submitted to the building inspector for his review and approval prior to the issuance of any building permit. Two, the clarification requested by the peer review pursuant to paragraph 16 of the letter of 11/14/24 be provided. Three, that the applicant submit final retaining wall designs that are stamped by a professional geotechnical engineer and structural engineer for review and approval prior to the commencement of construction. Four, that the stormwater pollution prevention plan be submitted and approved prior to the commencement of construction. Five, that truck traffic utilize the Spring Street access egress to the greatest extent possible. And that, as a part of that approval, that this landscape plan required under section 6.0K2Q of the stormwater management bylaw be waived. I think that's all of the items that you had noted, plus the traffic. I don't think I went off your, otherwise off your, what you had discussed. Oh, and then also that, to the extent necessary, plans with a current date be submitted to the board.
But I'll second the motion.
Motion is made and seconded. Discussion on that motion?
It should have started off at the very beginning, it's special permit with site plan approval, right? Not just site plan approval.
That was the second, special permit, and then I was gonna do the site plan approval as a separate vote. Yes, no, maybe.
So which one's which? Is this the site plan?
This is,
or
this is special permit.
Okay,
This is special permit, 5K2E.
okay. Okay. All right, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So if there's no other discussion, that's the motion on the floor. All those members in favor of that motion, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. That's a unanimous vote of all members present and voting. Second part of the process would be to grant site plan approval pursuant to section 13-2 of the zoning bylaw with the findings that all of the requirements of that section have been satisfied by the applicant.
I'll second that.
Motion is made, seconded. Discussion on that motion. None. All those in favor of that motion, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Again, a unanimous vote of all members present and voting. Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Chairman and Board. Have a great night, really appreciate it.
Well, good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Two other quick things on the agenda tonight. One is with respect to the approval of the 2025 Planning Board meeting calendar that was circulated to members by the office. Assuming that there are no questions or comments, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the meeting schedule in the form presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 meeting calendar as presented.
Motion is made by Mr. Heeger,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mr. Lawler. Discussion? None. All those in favor of the approval of the calendar as presented by, to the board, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Unanimous vote of all members present and voting.
That's the irritation, okay. That's this one.
And the other matter that's on the agenda for this evening would be just with respect to the Blackbrook subdivision, and that would be the request for the endorsement of a covenant that has been presented by the applicant to allow recording of the plans. Chair would entertain any motion with respect to that.
I'll move that we endorse the covenant.
Motion is made by Mr. Gardner to endorse the covenant,
I'll second it.
and seconded by Mr. Lawler. Discussion, and this is simply the covenant that is recorded with, the plan notes that there is a covenant to be recorded. So this is the covenant that will relate to the development of the, essentially the infrastructure.
Question,
So,
Yes.
what's the address of the Blackbrook Estates?
That's,
doesn't actually have an address right now, but it's behind the new houses on Central Street.
Okay,
If you go Central Street, either north or south, there's like 10, I think it's now 10 new houses on the
yes. And
westerly side.
I saw a back road being
It's
there.
actually in behind that.
Okay, okay.
It's the same, I want to be careful here. I was going to say same owner, but it's probably technically not the same owner, but it's basically the same development company that's going to be building that subdivision that's doing the houses. I did have one question, and I can't remember whether or not we have, but have we actually endorsed the plans for Blackbrook yet? Have we endorsed them yet?
You said to hold on to them.
Okay.
so,
So the reason I asked that is I know there was still some open issues on the stormwater management, which is an integral part of the approval, the way we're doing these now, so. I haven't seen anything further since we had that discussion probably a month, 6 weeks ago now. That they were working to try and better address the two questions that were still outstanding.
so it would be appropriate to endorse the covenant,
Certainly, we can endorse the covenant because
but the question remains with respect to the basic plan set. And you want to
well, why don't we,
hold that to the next meeting pending the resolution of those couple questions?
well, yeah, why don't we hold that endorsing the plans until the next meeting, until we can verify with the stormwater management team that they've resolved those last couple of
Fine, and
remaining issues.
we'll have a covenant form for that as well. So the vote would be then just simply to
Endorse the covenant.
endorse the covenant relating to the infrastructure and such under Chapter 41, Section 81U of the general laws. So all those in favor, was that motion seconded?
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Ms. Tedesco, made by Mr. Gardner. All those in favor of that motion, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. That's a unanimous vote of all members present and voting.
And I abstain. It's a
Yes,
subdivision.
correct. Subdivision matter, correct. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Samantha Cripps, PMP Consulting. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Pat Carrera. I just wanted to discuss the holding of the plans that you guys just mentioned. Pat submitted a soil report that was in regards to Environmental Partners peer review letter, which would cover the last outstanding item on the peer review. I'm not sure if you guys are in receipt of the soil report.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I think the issue is we haven't heard back from Environmental Partners whether that's satisfied what they were looking for.
Okay.
That's what we need, is their feedback to us. And I know, I did look at it. I think, obviously, these days when we've got a fairly high-end professional engineering firm looking at the plans, none of us sitting at this table are qualified to try and sort that stuff out.
Right.
So we really need their feedback.
Okay.
So we do have the letter of October 24th that was submitted by you guys, and I do not see that there has been a response, as Mr.
I
Gardner
haven't seen
indicates.
a
Yeah.
formal response to that
I
as of
think
yet.
that would be
so-
the only thing we're waiting for, and assuming they bless it, then, as Mr. Gardner says, I'm no the soils expert, so we will take that up in our first meeting in December and
Okay.
presumably approve that.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Anything else to come before the board?
Not that I know of. So I do have one other thing I wanted to pass on. I was at the auction of the land that's on the east side of Central Street.
Were you the high bidder?
Not quite.
Not quite.
The high bid was 2-point-something million, 2.1, 2.2 million, or something like that. I have had a fairly long telephone discussion with the bidder that made that bid. I think as of right now, it still hasn't closed yet. I think they had like 21 days to close or something like that, but, so we had a fairly lengthy discussion about two different things he's potentially interested in. He does already have a significant size industrial park somewhere, and he's considering potentially putting an industrial park there. We also discussed at some level of detail an over 55 development potentially there. Based on our past discussions as well as the current master plan, I think the planning board would prefer to see that as an over 55 development, given the dire need we have for housing for over 55. In addition to that, there's a very large parcel of industrial land on the other side of the street, behind where Blackbrook Estates would be.
Chi-town.
That's industrial, yes, Tri-Town's there, there's a whole, and it goes all the way up,
Yes.
27, I believe it is,
Yep.
where there's some businesses fronting there right now, I mean. So that's all industrial area back there for quite a ways, so there's a significant amount of acreage that we've been told by that applicant, and that the long-term plan is to build that out as an industrial park, so. In any case, obviously, the way we have to work is it's up to the applicant to present to us what he wants to do. And he has a right to do anything that the zoning bylaw allows him to do, so. But I did tell him that the planning board, based on our past discussions, and one of the reasons we changed the over 55 zoning bylaw to include industrial land was we were looking at that particular parcel of land as a potential over 55 development. The other thing we discussed is the fact that it's in a Zone 2 Aquifer Protection District. It's actually Hanson's Zone 2, but it is Zone 2. So it wouldn't be the easiest place to put an industrial park because of that. Everything in the entire place would have to be all tight tanked.
Plus, every member, every person that just built a house across the street would be here with all of their relatives.
That's how it works here, so. You've already seen some of that, so.
Yeah.
But in any case, I just wanted to let the board know that he had contacted the office. He wanted to talk to me, so we did have a fairly lengthy telephone discussion.
And the other thing that I would add on a different subject was, I know Roy and I, at least, I'm not sure whether other members, zoomed in on a conference that was sponsored by EOHLC regarding the accessory dwelling units, about 10 days or so ago, I think it was. Lot of questions, not a lot of answers. Supposedly, you know, they're still in the process of getting guidance together for interpretations of the law, and they are going to be sponsoring additional seminars in the coming weeks, presumably prior to February, when this thing is supposed to go into effect, so that you know, folks will questions that were raised, and as I say, not a great deal of answers, as I think the Attorney General, the EOHLC, and others are continuing to sort through, you know, the details now that the law is in effect. So, kind of did it backwards, in my opinion, but so be it. All right. Other than that, anybody else? Comments, questions?
Question, I noticed that the master plan is over here on the table. The master plan that we approved?
Is it? Is that
Yeah,
what that is?
it's right there.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh,
So-
yes.
Have we brought that to the town meeting yet? Or is,
We're the final authority.
so once it was approved by us, okay, so we don't, there's not another step?
No.
Okay. Good to know.
Good.
Anything else? Mr. Lawler?
Our work is done here.
Mr. Lawler makes a motion to adjourn.
I do.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Heeger. All those in favor of the motion, so signify by saying aye. Motion is voted by all present and voting. 7:55, meeting is adjourned.
It's a beautiful.